being a friend or being a part of a community shouldn't come with a monthly fee. The kind of sisterhood that requires you to buy $500 in oils or cosmetics every month or to recruit X number of people every month is probably not the empowering community you're looking for. Welcome to The Scaries, brought to you by Razor Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory and the homeland of the Métis. In each episode, we tackle the alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. The Scaries is an opportunity to raise awareness, share resources, and use our voices as women and supporters of women to make real change. As always, the views expressed on this podcast are solely our own and for entertainment purposes only, and we may be sharing content that could be triggering, so listen with caution.
As straight, cisgender, white, able-bodied settler women, we are aware of the privilege that we have, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
Why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman.
Hello. So today, everybody, we are picking up from a few weeks ago where we just focused on cults, the fun world of cults. Today, we're owning in, though, on a very specific and current threat. And you probably don't, a lot of people, it's so prevalent that we don't think of it as a threat, is MLMs and pyramid schemes. And we'll get into why it is a threat. And I know you're thinking, like, isn't this a 90s theme? Like, you know, the Tupperwares and those things and whatever. And why is it still around? Here's the kicker. It's not just still happening. It's thriving. Like, people are making this is their full-time thing. They're investing their whole lives in this. And women especially are in the crosshairs.
Absolutely. Think of this episode as Sisterhood of the Traveling Red Flags. We're pulling back the curtain on how cults and MLMs aren't just existing, but have adapted to a digital world, specifically targeting women. And we're getting into why that is, the psychological traps, and how to steer clear of them.
So a huge shout out to Emily Lynn Paulson's Hey Hun book, Amanda Montell's Cultish book, and a host of studies that help us understand the sneaky language, social manipulation, and psychology that pull women in. Plus, we'll look at other studies that show why MLMs especially are structured to appeal to women who are looking for community success or both.
So before we dive into the stories and stats, let's break down what we're talking about when we say MLM and pyramid scheme. They're often used interchangeably, but there are some key differences, but mostly a lot of overlap. Both MLMs, or multi-level marketing companies, and pyramid schemes are structured to make money through recruitment. But how they operate and their legality are where things start to differ.
So if you're a part, like, it's hard to press to find someone in this day and age who hasn't been a part of one, an MLM or a pyramid scheme, or know someone who has. Like, I for sure know many people.
Yeah, same.
So we're not dissing you. We're not telling you that that's wrong, that's bad. We want you to be aware of the threats.
Yeah.
We want you to ask questions.
Why?
Yeah. And just consider, the impact it may be having on you and those in your life.
Yeah.
But again, it's an awareness piece.
Yep.
So again, just take this all as information that you can choose what you'd like to do with it and just be curious.
And as we always say, this podcast is our own personal opinions.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to shade or shame anyone. So let's start with pyramid schemes. The pyramid scheme is a business model that's based almost entirely on recruitment. So it's less about the product that you're selling and more. You make more money based on recruitment. Essentially, people pay to join. And the only way to make money is by recruiting others to do the same. That's usually little to no actual product or service being sold. Just the promise of making it big if you get enough people under you.
Right.
So there's way more of a relationship building thing and less about learning about the product and investing because you care about the product itself. So that's where I think that you can ask yourself, if you're part of one or you know someone who is, that might be the difference. If you love what you're selling, great. Then, awesome. If you're going to use it, great. But maybe if it's about so much time of recruiting others, you may want to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Pyramid schemes rely on a structure where each new recruit pays an entry fee or buys a starter kit, and those fees go directly to the people higher up in the pyramid. So if you're in early and recruit a lot of people, you make money. until the scheme collapses. And collapse is inevitable because eventually you run out of people to recruit.
There's only so many people in the world.
And I think that's why social media is such a big thing right now, right?
Yeah.
It's because you can broaden your circles
Oh,
way more than you ever could before.
Like your friend group or
Exactly.
acquaintances in the city.
And if you're talented on social media, which not everyone is, like I feel like I'm not, but so many are, and like those are the ones that are doing really, really well.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the key. Pyramid schemes are illegal in most places. The reason they're unsustainable and designed to fail. Once recruitment slows, the entire structure collapses, leaving those at the bottom with nothing. The FTC and other organizations have cracked down on pyramid schemes because they're exploitive and financially ruinous for the vast majority of participants.
So technically illegal. Now, MLMs, or those multi-level marketing companies, are structured similarly, but one critical difference. They involve selling an actual product or a service. MLMs typically recruit participants to sell products like essential oils or vitamins or beauty products or like workout videos or clothing or whatever it may be. These companies claim that people can make money by selling both the products directly and by recruiting others to join as salespeople. In an MLM, each person can theoretically earn money through product sales commissions, as well as commissions from the sales made by their recruits or their downline. MLMs promote the idea that you can work your way up in the company, but in reality, most of the revenue comes from recruiting others, just like in a pyramid scheme. And this is where it gets tricky. While MLMs claim to be legitimate because they sell products, many MLM participants still make very little from sales alone. Instead, they rely heavily on recruiting others to make money, which can blur the line between a legit MLM and an illegal pyramid scheme.
So what's the real difference? Well, the main distinction is that MLMs involve, like Talitha said, actual products and services being sold, which technically makes them legal in many countries, unlike pyramid schemes. But when you look closer, the similarities can be striking and concerning. Both pyramid schemes and MLMs depend on recruiting new people to make money. And in both cases, the structure is set up so that only those at the very top make sustainable income, like can do this full time.
Yeah.
Studies show that most MLM participants lose money, much like a pyramid scheme, because commissions are so heavily dependent on a large downline. And I just want to add in, the thing that gets tricky too, and another red flag to consider if you're in one or you know someone who is when it's beyond the product and the training and the knowledge that you're buying into is beyond the product, and it's about like a new way of thinking, a new mindset, a new religion, perhaps. That is when we like move into cult area.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some documentaries that like bring together for like their conferences, and then their conferences are like swaying oddly towards like a very specific religion or like a set of beliefs. Yeah. Another similarity is the buy-in aspect. So both pyramid schemes and MLMs often require participants to pay for a starter kit, as Sky mentioned, or inventory upfront, which can lead to a cycle of debt as people try to invest more to make a profit. In MLMs, the focus on buying inventory can create financial strain for those at the bottom. Obviously, you're buying things and people aren't buying them from you. But there are also some key differences. In an MLM, you technically can make money from just selling products, even if it's rare to make a substantial profit without recruiting. In a pure pyramid scheme, there's no product, only recruitment, which is why it's illegal and unsustainable.
So here's the $1 million question. Are MLMs just legal pyramid schemes?
Good question.
Some people would argue yes, because the revenue model for many MLMs still relies on recruitment more than the actual product sales. Even though they're technically legal, MLMs often operate similarly to pyramid schemes, with only a small percentage of participants, like we said, earning any real profits. And there's data to back that up. According to the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, nearly 99% of MLM participants lose money. 99% lose money. So while they're not classified
as a small amount.
Yeah, so it's like everybody.
Yeah.
While they're not classified as pyramid schemes legally, the financial outcome for participants in these activities in MLMs is the same. And many former MLM participants describe it as financially and emotionally draining.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the time investment, like all these, if you do have to recruit people.
Oh yeah. Like it's like messaging, like especially if you're using social media, it's like messaging people and like following up, and like, which is why the one book is called Hey Hun, because I think like I've received messages that are like, hey hun, and
Well,
it's
and
like
they have
this
like their
full-
own language, right?
Yeah.
To get you in to think that it's like a sisterhood and not
like a
necessarily-
community, and an opportunity to be financially free. But we learned 99% lose money.
And I think it's like for me being like, not recently, I guess I've been off mat leave for almost a year now, but like often when you're on mat leave and it's like, oh, here's a way to like survive while you're on mat leave and make money and have fun, and that actually is so much work.
Yep. I actually was reached out to recently.
Oh,
that's actually really funny. I now forgot about that. It was via LinkedIn. Someone messaged me and was like, I have this really great opportunity. And I see that like you're going to be going on like maternity leave soon. And I was like, I actually have like 700 things going on. So like,
talking to the wrong person.
I'm good.
I don't have any time.
No time to even try to pick up another thing. And I'd probably get divorced if I did. So ultimately, MLMs have found a way to operate within the law by selling products, but the structure and strategies they use can feel alarmingly close to a pyramid scheme. They encourage endless recruiting, which keeps the cash flow going, even though the people at the bottom rarely profit. Again, 99%. So while they're not technically pyramid schemes, MLMs have been criticized for exploiting the same weaknesses in people that pyramid schemes do. The promise of quick wealth, the allure of being your own boss, and the sense of belonging to a supportive community. We'll get into the impact of that in a little bit more detail soon, but it's safe to say that the line between MLMs and pyramid schemes is pretty blurry.
So now that we are on the same page, let's start with some background. So why are MLMs targeting women? It's not random. These companies are strategic. Amanda Montell's Cultish breaks down how language itself, like we kind of talked about, becomes a tool for manipulation. MLMs use feel-good terms like boss babe, sisterhood, girl gang, hun.
Yeah.
It's designed to make women feel like they're joining a community, not a business transaction.
Very much so.
And it feels welcoming, but really it's the tip of the iceberg. And honestly, women are good. We're relationship builders.
Totally.
So of course they're going to target women because women are the ones to build relationships. We're recruiters. We're not in it for just a quick transaction that others are more likely to be in.
Definitely not just transactional. Yeah. But here's where it gets insidious. So Hey Hun, the book that we were just talking about, points out that these organizations specifically target women at times when they might be feeling most isolated or undervalued, like stay-at-home moms, recent college grads, or those that want more independence but need flexibility. Yeah, mat leaves, all of that. These MLMs swoop in and suddenly they look like a lifeline offering empowerment. But with the financial pressures women often face, they're drawn in by promises of easy money and the pitch that they can work from home and be their own boss.
And this isn't just anecdotal. According to research, MLMs know exactly what they're doing. A report from the Federal Trade Commission again found that nearly 75% of MLM participants are women, with a heavy skew towards women aged 30 to 45. What are they doing? Having babies, living at home, raising young kids. And it makes sense. MLMs offer the flexibility women are looking for, especially when you have young children, but it's set up that almost never pays off financially. And if you think about the people that you know who are in MLMs, I know I can count on one hand who are actually successful at it. And I know pretty much so many people I know in my life have dabbled. I've even purchased things from MLMs.
Same.
So, and some of them like, this is a great product. Sure, I'll continue. Like there's no problem. But some of them get a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, they get a little bit sketchy.
So let's also touch on the social science perspective. A study from Stanford University published in Social Influence in 2018 highlights the psychological mechanisms of affinity fraud in MLMs. Women are drawn to the perceived trust and support these groups offer, especially when leaders present as relatable figures. MLMs leverage affinity to create a sense of community that replaces traditional support systems, so participants feel like they're getting a part of that family.
Oh, it's so weird. Yeah, it's like we're the same, like we have so many things in common. So you should join. Like I'm also a stay-at-home mom, or like I also have 3 kids and whatever else. And so, the affinity of it all. So let's get into the nitty-gritty numbers, because if the warm and fuzzy language doesn't make you think twice about MLMs, these stats might. So according to the Consumer Awareness Institute, an astounding 99% of people, as we said, involved in MLMs lose money. That's almost everyone. We need to restate it again because it's so important. 99% of people lose money. And while that 1% at the top might look successful, it's usually because they're the ones at the top of the recruiting chain. Most MLMs make money through recruitment, not product sales, as we said. For the average person, especially women who may already be balancing childcare, jobs, or other commitments, it's almost a guarantee of financial loss. In fact, a study by the AARP Foundation shows that women in MLMs are most likely to go into debt than make a profit. Over 60% of respondents reported spending more money on products than they earned. And around 20% took out loans or credit to pay for inventory.
Wow.
These women are actually paying to keep up appearances of a successful business.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're just paying themselves, right? Buying their own stuff. And then there's the issue of retention. So most MLMs have an incredibly high turnover rate, often over 90%. This whole get rich quick is not a thing. Like, it takes people years and years and years.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, these companies know that most participants won't stick around, but they don't need them to because they get that registration fee like right off the top.
Yeah.
As long as they're recruiting new people at the bottom, they keep the profits rolling in. Another harsh reality is that many of these companies claim to help women become financially independent, but the Federal Trade Commission found that less than 1% of MLM participants earn a living wage. So not even getting rich, just being able to earn a living wage.
Pay
Like,
bills.
what's the living wage these days? I don't even know. And even that 1% is often dependent on how many people they've recruited, not on actual product sales. So again, if the focus is recruitment, not on the product, ask why.
Yeah.
It's probably a pyramid in every sense of the word legally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about the numbers, but let's dive into the psychology. So Emily Paulson and Amanda Montell both cover how MLMs, like cults, rely on intense social pressure and language manipulation in cultish. I also just recommend Amanda Montell's books over and over and over again. She studies language very specifically. She's a linguist, and she just goes over very interesting things. But this one specifically, Amanda Montell describes how specific words and phrases create a bond and reinforce the idea of how you're a part of something bigger. You're not just working, you're building your dream, you're joining a sisterhood, and you're making a difference.
That's really good to know. Because I feel like even we use some of those words as razor, but now I'm like, ooh, we got to change. No, we don't ever promise any type of recruitment.
I was going to say,
be real. We don't even have a membership anymore. But yeah, even that, just to be aware of that, that could send off some alarm bells for people, right? So it's all manipulative because it binds your personal identity to your business. You're not just selling products, you're building a legacy or empowering others. Paulson explains this in Hey Hun by describing how MLMs use love bombing, again, that we talked about in our cult episode, essentially showering new recruits with support and attention, which can be intoxicating, especially if you're feeling isolated.
Oh, exactly. It's that classic toxic positivity too. If you're not succeeding, they'll say it's because you're not working hard enough, or you need to manifest success. Ugh. So any failure feels personal, like it's your fault for not trying hard enough. And when you try to leave, it feels like you're betraying not just a job, but a community of people that have supported you and that you're emotionally invested in.
Which is exactly how cults operate. Yeah. Cults and MLMs both create a sense of dependency, sometimes isolation. Research from Columbia University School of Psychology calls this bounded choice. When participants feel trapped in the organization because leaving would mean severing the only support system they know. So that's the play, right? They isolate you from everyone in your family so that you depend on them and don't want to leave because you'll have nobody else if you do.
Yeah. It's that BITE acronym. Well, my
they
brain
turn you away from other people. Red flag, red flag.
Yes.
And the language that reinforces it is huge. Montell calls it thought terminating cliches. You hear phrases like, the only way to fail is to quit, or you're only limited by your own beliefs. These are just inspirational quotes. Yes, these are very much cliches. They're psychological traps in often cases for these MLMs. They discourage critical thinking and turn the responsibility for failure back onto the individual. So if people are getting upset by you asking questions, saying, can we try something different? Can we do this a different way? Why? That's also a red flag.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's terrifying. And sadly, because it's designed this way, it works. The language, the community, the social pressure, MLMs and cults both operate by creating environments that feel like support systems, but are actually designed to keep people dependent and financially invested.
So we've belabored this, like this is a problem. This is extremely prevalent. What are we going to do with this information now that we know it? How can people avoid getting stuck in these traps? One key takeaway from all of this research is awareness. The point of this podcast. Know from the red flags. If someone is trying to sell you a business opportunity but requires a buy-in or constant product purchases or constant recruitment, key thing, it's a huge warning sign.
Right. It is a huge warning sign. And also, like, listen to the language that they're using. If it sounds more like a spiritual calling than a business opportunity, phrases like changing lives or unlimited potential, be skeptical. Real businesses don't rely on buzzwords to keep you hooked. Emily Paulson mentions in Hey Hun the importance of transparency. If a company doesn't share its financial risk up front, run away.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And check your emotional response. If you feel love bombed or pressure to prove your commitment financially, that's manipulation at work. And remember, there's no shame in questioning a supposed business opportunity. MLMs thrive on making people feel guilty for questioning them. But it's your right to ask questions and to walk away if something feels off.
Always ask questions everywhere you go. So beyond the personal vigilance, there's also a need for broader policy changes. As we know, MLMs are technically legal, but regulatory oversight is weak of them. Advocates are calling for transparency laws to require MLMs to disclose real earning data up front. Let's be real. That should be a thing. If this is going to be your full-time job, business, I want to know what I'm getting into, just like you are when you sign a contract with a job. Like, what is my salary going to be? And how soon will I get that? How often will I get paid? I need to build my life around this.
Yeah, exactly.
Think of it like nutrition labels for businesses and achievers. They're job descriptions.
Yes, exactly. That's really a great analogy. Right now, MLMs can dodge a lot of those transparency issues because they're classified as direct sales, like direct to consumer.
Yeah.
But if they had to show participants the hard truth that nearly everyone loses money, maybe fewer people would sign up.
Agreed. And in some countries, there's already movement on this. For example, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission cracked down on certain MLM structures in recent years, making it harder for these companies to operate without transparency. Canada and the US have both seen calls to tighten the laws on pyramid schemes. With stronger legal frameworks, it would be easier to penalize MLMs than operate like recruitment machines rather than actual product-based businesses. So to wrap everything up, the biggest takeaway here is to stay informed and to question things that feel too good to be true.
Always.
These organizations thrive on silencing doubt. Don't let yourself be guilt-trapped or manipulated by fancy language. And remember, true empowerment is never going to come with a monthly fee.
No.
Big question.
Yeah.
Big thought there. It shouldn't come with a monthly fee. Being a friend or being a part of a community shouldn't come with a monthly fee. The kind of sisterhood that requires you to buy $500 in oils or cosmetics every month or to recruit X number of people every month is probably not the empowering community you're looking for.
Right. Real community doesn't come with a price tag, and financial independence is best achieved with transparency, not sales pitches. Be vigilant, stay informed, and don't be afraid to walk away if something feels fishy. So with that, thank you for joining us today as we confronted these terrifying but real life statistics and situations impacting women and girls. Please share this episode, rate and subscribe wherever you are listening, and stay tuned for more ways to make a positive impact. Together, we can make the world a little less scary for women and girls.
Follow us on Instagram at RaiseHerCo and scaries.podcast and on TikTok at RaiseHerCo. And remember that change starts with awareness, action, and asking questions.
Ask why.
Yes. Thank you for being part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary for it to exist as a woman. Bye.